All right, folks, what's the crack? Welcome to episode 9 of the Anxious L.A.D podcast. My name is Matt Keenan. Thank you so much, as always, for tuning in. I really do appreciate it. In today's episode, I've got Talan Channon Light. Talan comes on to tell his story of mental health and the creation of an online community for men called Alpha Redefinition. I'll let Talan explain what all of that is during the episode. Anyone who would like to reach out and speak to Talan or the guys of Alpha Redefinition, you can go to alpharedefinition.com. It is a paid subscription. Again, I'll let Talan explain all of that to you. But there's also then a discount code that you can use, which is Anxious22. So if you want to reach out to Talan and the guys, go to alpharedefinition.com. And as I said, then Anxious22 is your discount code on the subscription, folks. But let's get going. Talan, how are you doing?
Doing well. How are you?
Not bad, not bad. Just before we hit record, I said it and I'll say it again. We finally get to sit down and record this episode, man. It's been a weird, wonderful few months, I think, for both of us getting to this point, eh?
Yeah, I mean, second time's the charm, third time, fourth, I don't know. This one.
Yeah, so I guess between, life getting in the way of both of us, probably more so me, we had to cancel a couple of times, and then we tried to record, and then my computer crashed, and then your stuff wasn't working. So we got there in the end, buddy. We got there in the end. So listen, it's absolutely great to have you on the show. I'm looking forward to our chat this evening, obviously, but for getting the word out there for the Alpha Redefinition for your side definitely. Of things. How's that been going? Do you want to give the guys a bit of a background into what Alpha Redefinition is, and we'll jump on from there?
Yeah, so Alpha Redefinition is a men's community. It's a band of brothers, and we have men working on all types of different things, whether you're struggling with mental health or relationship issues, parenting issues, fitness. I mean, it's kind of come and take what you want. Each men have their own passion and their value and their story, and some been with us for years, and life changes. Life has its up and downs, relationship issues or whatever. So it's kind of nice to have a band of brothers where you can actually be authentic and open and no judgment and have the community.
Awesome. And is it just on, I know you've seen a couple of things you've posted on Facebook and that. So is it a group on Facebook? Is it meetups, that kind of stuff? Well, how does that work?
So we do have a Facebook group, of course, but we do have our own platform at alpharedefinition.com. And for the members there, we have a back end like a Facebook, and we have forums there, podcasts, messaging, our meetings are there. So it's kind of built our own Facebook.
Okay, so that's cool.
Yeah.
I was going to say, so guys, come on, I guess it's not specifically for the coaching thing, or, you see a lot of guys now doing the whole mindful coaching stuff or life coaching, that kind of stuff. It kind of goes beyond that, I guess, a little bit into, as you say, more of a community element where guys are getting together and sharing experiences, is it?
Exactly. It's definitely deeper than that. Obviously, we have our coaches, the mentoring and the one-on-one coaching, and you find a lot of men come in, and once they get on the other side of their issue, giving back and is more fulfilling than anything. So to help someone that was once in your shoes is extremely fulfilling because you can relate and it's honest. It's not like we've all been through it on Facebook, someone sliding in your DMs, offering you coaching. I mean, yes, we have our coaching packages, but we also give people a taste of the community. So you have a membership fee each month or quarterly or however you want to go about it. And if that was something that you're just needed coaching, yes, we have those offers. But this isn't something that you pay one of those coaches and after you're done, you never talk to them again. This is an entire community that you actually get to depend on. So it's real nice. And we're growing every day. Eventually want to get an app out there, but the more members that come on is the more that we can do for the site. So it's a work in progress, and we're going to keep growing and having more additives to it as time progresses, and we have news feed and blogs and all that. So only time will tell.
That's awesome. Take it back to the beginning then. So how did Alpha Redefinition start?
That is an excellent question. And life just happens. And in a million years, I would never think that I was doing what I was doing. I love mental health, and it intrigues me why people do what they do. And we'll go through that. I've kind of built something that I personally needed, something that I believed in. I joined men's group, Mankind Project. A lot of them were religion or only fitness, like, and they weren't even quarter of what I built. You just go in there and let's say, I know you're in Ireland, but here we have the F3 Nation, a band of brothers that meet up and do workouts together and talk about. This wasn't something that was built to be a religion, and whether you believe in God or Buddha or the universe, we don't judge here. That's not, it's so much deeper than that. And yes, we allow people, if that's their passion, to speak about it, but it's personal development, always striving to be a better man and that best version of yourself to give back to your family and community and inspire people to become more and grow. You only get one shot at life. So to leave a legacy that you have in mind and give you the tools and resources to get there.
So you said it was something that came about from necessity, almost something that you needed. So let's flip the clock back even further then and say, so why do you think you needed something like this?
Alpha Redefinition came about 4 years ago, and it's definitely changed and evolved over the years. But I would definitely say about 2.5, 3 years ago is when my blood, sweat, and tears came into this. And I had a life event, something traumatic happened to me a couple years ago with friends and everything. And I actually had to audit my life. And I wasn't hanging around the best role models, and I was turning my head at things that should have been addressed, and like abuse and being a people pleaser and things that go against my morals and values. I knew I was hanging with the wrong crowd of people. I was no better than them. So losing my best friends and everything, I really need to set a good example and build something that is for people to strive and be more.
That's awesome. So listen, let's go back to the beginning, because it's interesting you say like there about Alpha Redefinition and how little things started with your friends group a few years ago and that, but actually there was stuff stemming from the early days really with your mental health, wasn't there?
Yeah, absolutely. I had to hold myself accountable because yes, it was causing me to drink alcohol every day. I had so many codependencies. I was suicidal. I mean, it was rough, and I had no good peer to actually pull me out of that. Everyone that I leaned on was dealing with their own things. Nobody in my friend group actually had bigger dreams or want to grow more. So as I was doing this alpha redefinition, I kind of had imposter syndrome. I'm like, here's what I want to do, my values and morals. But I look around at my life and I'm completely miserable. I'm struggling. I was at the time working for a retail store as I'm building alpha redefinition, and I'm going to school for neurolinguistics programming. I knew I wanted more, but my environment had such limiting beliefs on me that Alpha Redefinition originally didn't start as a men's group. I feel all these situations in my life kept happening, like me auditing my friendships and being at a wedding where the groom side only had 2 people show up. I'm like, do I want this for myself? What am I doing? How is this okay? It makes you think when you were younger. It's like, this is not the life that I had envisioned for myself. I am not anything that I would need the younger person for me to be, the child me that was scared of ever even touching alcohol. I grew up with a alcoholic mother. She was in prison probably 90% of my life. I'm 33 now, but she had 13 DWIs and for all these things to cause chaos in my life. And I'm sitting here drinking every day, hating myself. And I haven't even done anything bad in the world. I hadn't worked on my own traumas, but I knew the whole environment that I chose to place myself in was not healthy. There was no way I could have the life and become who I needed to become to help others in that situation. Anyone's ever been in a relationship where whether it's toxic or you're not going to be with them and just walk away from something you love, whether it's a friendship or family, to cut that off when you've been around these people for 15 years is one of the hardest things to do. I was willing to give up everything for Alpha Redefinition, my dream, because people needed it. I needed it. You don't understand how much your surroundings truly impact you. But when I think about me being that child and not having the mother that I needed and being so young, and I don't even think I knew what prison was at that point. I didn't, yes, I knew my mother was a drinker because she was dealing with her own traumas that she couldn't handle. And here I am 33 years later doing it. So when I actually go back, my father, who was pretty much Mr. Mom, he ran his own pawn shop, raised my other siblings, his stepchildren, but he also had his own struggles too. He was addicted to pills, sleeping pills or anxiety medicine. I'm not even sure at this point, but I was always independent. I'd never really had that great peers and role models. I came from a very, very loving family. There's no doubt about that. And I got blessed with that.
So let's talk about that quickly then, because I know I kind of know this story, but I'd love for everyone to hear it because I want to say it's unique in a sense because I'm going to phrase it wrongly, I think as well, but to kind of bring you into it though, but you kind of had two dads at one point, right? And this was something that's not very common. This was two lads. I'm gonna let you explain it because I can't do it justice. But you had two very strong role models, I guess, early on who helped raise you and your siblings.
Yeah. So with my father and my siblings, they also had their father. And since my mother was in prison, they kind of stepped up. And especially in culture nowadays, you see people not able to co parent or imagine two ex-husband of my mother living together, stepping up for the kids to raise them.
And that's it. That's like when you first told me that, I was like, that's incredible. These are two guys who've been with the same woman at different times. They've both had kids or whatever. She's done her thing and in prison. And the two boys come together and say, you know what, let's get all the kids together and let's do this right for them. I mean, that's incredible. And again, you're going back 20 odd years as well. So even you probably wouldn't see it, but definitely 20 odd years ago, you definitely wouldn't have seen that happen a lot.
Yeah. Two ex-husbands who came together for the better of their kids. And I think that looking back was so extremely healthy for me to see. And to be honest, all his exes and even my stepmother got along. They definitely showed me how to have a relationship, but they didn't know how to handle their own struggles, you know.
Yeah.
My stepfather did cocaine and ended up passing away of what is to be believed of a cocaine overdose. That was actually the first huge trauma in my life because yes, I had the chaotic mother who's in prison, but I'm so young at this point that I don't register it.
Yeah.
So when my stepfather had passed away, I had just turned 9 years old and I came home. I was in third grade and I was walking in my front door, and this lady, we used to call her She Devil, which should tell you in the nickname right there that she's bad news. So she opens the door and she's like, "You can't come in." And I'm like, "What? This is my house. What do you mean I can't come in?" Not knowing that my stepfather was deceased in there. And I was like, "No, lady, you don't live here. I live here." Could you imagine a little 9-year-old, never even been through anything? So I was like, you know what? Whatever. So I go and I walk down the street to my friend Miles's house. And I'll never forget this. There was a little cul-de-sac, and I remember an ambulance flying past me and turning around. And when you know, you just know.
Mm-hmm.
That gut feeling usually never lies. And I've always trusted my gut. And I started running back home. I did a 180 because I knew. And we had 8-foot privacy fence. When I tried to like jump over them, my mission was to get in there.
Yeah.
And after that, when the actual trauma happened, that's all I remember because it was blackout from there. I don't remember ever being allowed inside after that ambulance and me chasing it and getting there and trying to get inside. I don't remember anything. I know it was like the first time in my life, which nobody meant for me to feel this way, but I didn't feel good enough.
Mm.
And I carried that with me for over 25 years. And it still chokes me up, man, because it costs me a lot in life to not step up for myself. And I think that ever since he passed away and my whole world changed because my father now had these 3 kids and he owns his own business and he doesn't have that other financial help or to watch the kids. I'm only 9 at this time. So he's like, what am I supposed to do? Mom's in prison. I don't even know if I can raise one kid because it's either my business fails and I take care of these babies or I admit defeat and I have to run my business and someone else is going to have to watch them for a bit. Me and my siblings at the time, we really didn't think about it. Me and my brother had a conversation a bit ago. I went and lived with my stepmother and my sister Mallory and Tony, and my sister Lauren and Pat had went and moved with their Aunt Debbie, I believe. So you could only imagine how they feel. They lost their father. They don't even have another parent. And now they're living with their aunt. They're like, oh, because you're not our real dad, like you're shipping us off. But they didn't know that I'd also been shipped off.
Yeah.
So
how old were they when this kind of, so you're 9 when this happened. So old were
So I think my
your brother and
brother
sister?
was probably about 14, my brother was, and my sister was probably about 16, 17. So in those teen years, you know,
Yeah.
the little heathen years, but also very vulnerable
Yeah,
for
for
something
sure.
to happen. I feel that I've always had a big heart. I mean, that's been my passion. Even in 6th grade, I used to sit with kids eating alone. I've always had this caretaking role. I stuck up against bullies and I've always had this, like, I want to do right in the world.
Yeah.
I didn't understand why people got bullied or because I've had characters in my life. My dad used to own a pawn shop in an area that's, you have a couple characters and goobers. Weird people didn't faze me. So I end up moving back with my father and kind of hitting that teen phase. At this point, I feel I really don't have too many memories because I feel I had my huge first trauma and I blacked out a lot of it. As I started the next couple of years, I really got into BMX racing. That was my passion. I feel I honestly disconnected with the world from BMX racing. I didn't have my mother. I spoke to her on the phone. That's about the relationship we had. I only really knew the sober her. I've seen her but I was so young at the time, it didn't impact me like it did my siblings who hold this anger and hurt because they were older. And my dad was the nicest person in the world. And I probably got the caretaking from him. He would give the shirt off of his back to anybody. And I felt since I was so independent, I never asked for help. I was raising myself. Ever since I like BMX raced, I started to smoke weed and hang out. And I grew up with actually amazing friends. And they really weren't bad influences. They were amazing influences in my life. But I was dealing with my own, just coasting through life. I was disassociating from the trauma.
Yeah. And that's understandable. You kind of say your first trauma was when your stepdad died. But actually, listening to you, there's a lot of trauma before that with have mum there, you don't remember it almost, but it's going to be there somewhere in the unconscious. The trauma with your mum, the drinking, the drugs, the going to prison, all of that juggling around and life being thrown up in the air like that is going to have an impact on you, especially at those really young developmental ages. Do you know what I mean? Then your life changes again and the two dads come together and you've got this family unit, and then boom, that's thrown up in the air again. You've lost that. Yeah, it's interesting. You say you kind of pointed back to your stepdad dying as your first big trauma, which obviously it is a massive big trauma. I'm not trying to belittle it by saying that, but there's obviously a lot of big traumas kind of in there before that. So to disassociate then in those teenage years and step back for it and say, you know what, I'm not dealing with any of that now. Now's the time for me and my friends, the BMX, the weed, all that stuff. Now was my time to have a bit of fun and say, no, good luck, I'm not dealing.
Yeah, I feel the situation I was in with my stepdads was very fortunate to where, yes, I did not have a mother there, but I was so young to understand what was happening that I really didn't deal with that or notice until later in my life. So I was very happy kid. I would go play. I was class clown. These are things that I don't remember having any because they held the fort down. There's tons of people out there with single parents. Yes, I'm sure they always like, oh, why? I don't ever remember that being a forefront or really affecting me until later in my life when other events started happening. I'm going through this BMX racing and I'm excelling. I'm good. I'm passionate. It scares the crap out of me. Jumping a 20-foot dirt jump, breaking bones is nothing. It's the excitement of the game. It's a thrill. It does more for me than any weed would ever do. As I'm doing this for 5 years, I'm living in this high school. I have great friends. I'm smoking weed. I love everything. And then, boom, something else happens. My sister Fallon and my uncle Scott show up to my dad's place. And I'm about 17 at this time. And I'm a huge pothead. I love BMX racing. I'll ride my bike everywhere and smoke. I came home and he was like, your bong's in the trash. This is my Uncle Scott talking. I was like, what? You guys come at my house and you throw my bong away? What are you even doing here? And they're like, your father's sick with lung cancer.
Oh, fuck.
Yeah. So I'd been coasting through life. I finally feel at what I knew at the time to be normal again, even though I was smoking weed and being a kid, whatever. But that was kind of the beginning of it. That was my God figure, my father. So we end up once again, it's like PTSD. It's Ellen where we live and then going to move with my aunt and uncle. I'm like, I know this, I know this. With all that happening and all these events, I've learned to be so independent and not ask for help or anything. I just continue on. I'm not understanding what cancer is at this point. I know my good friend Clayton had lost his mom to cancer on Christmas Day, but I didn't understand what cancer would be like living with someone with cancer. I kept traveling with BMX and I ran from my problems. I hold a lot of regret, man, because I could have spent more time with my father instead of trying to be the best in BMX racing. And I know that it's something I'll have to work on and forgive myself. And it's been 15 years since he passed, but I feel that's when I really found a love and a passion for making sure that I really truly help people. And I wanted to become a caretaker like my dad was. I wanted people to not go through what I went through. You know what I mean? And once he ended up passing away, I was like, what do I have now? I've been BMX racing this whole time, and now he's slowly been deteriorating. I got that call on Christmas Day that he was taking a toll for the worse. Deja vu, like my friend Clayton. He was very fortunate. He had everyone at his side. He had my mother and his brother and a sister, and the whole family was there. And honestly, it's a beautiful thing. I may get choked up about my father, but Christmas is very special because of that. It's not something that, and don't get me wrong, I hated it for about 10 years. I'm like, I'm a Jehovah. I forget Christmas. I was pretty bah humbug, but man, in those times I just felt alone and got really heavy into drinking because at this point in time I had broken a clavicle. I was getting older. BMX was getting harder, and I fell into drinking. Losing my father was very hard. And I didn't drink every day, but I started to soothe myself with alcohol at this point in time. Something I swore that I would never do. And it was extremely rough. Like, I had excelled in this job that I did. I'm a people person. I love people, and I worked for the shoe store Journeys. And if I'm passionate about something, I'm going to excel. So what do? I find the next best thing to wrap myself up in and run away from my problems. But now I'm running a retail store. I'm pretty much independent. I'm doing this to survive. I'm in survival mode, and I'm not dealing with the passing of my father. So I'm drinking at this point, and it gets progressively worse. At the age of 21, I am drinking all the time. All the time. I was getting DWI, and here it is. My mother junior, right?
History repeating itself, eh?
Exactly. And I was terrified. I was like, how do I deal with it? How do I deal with this? And I'll never forget my uncle Dave picked me up because everyone's like, let him sit there. I had every damn right to. Knowing that once you get booked, you're in jail. You're in county jail. Boy, and my uncle Dave saved me. He really did, because that was a huge awakening for me. I was getting in trouble. I was getting in fights, DWI, and I'd caught another one in the span. But luckily, what happened before the other one, I was on a path.
You're on a self-destruct mode at that point.
Exactly.
And it's interesting, right? Because with all the episodes that I've done so far, and I mentioned, actually, I recorded an episode the other night, and I mentioned it with a guy there. We all kind of have our different paths, right? In how we get to that rock bottom point, right? But as men, we all tend to deal with it the same way: drugs and alcohol. That's one thing I find fascinating about you men as a collective. We can all have different roads and paths bringing us up to this point, but when we get to that point, we all suffer the same way. There's a common ground there between all that we can all relate to. Then when you speak to somebody else who's kind of been through it, you talk about the drinking and the drugs and stuff, and I've had my share of drinking and everything else as well, and I can see exactly where you're going with it. And the other guys have spoken to you all the exact same. Your uncle then saved you, obviously, from getting booked and going into county jail, but you're still, what, 21, 22 at this point?
Yeah, so I'm 21, 22 at this point. He had saved me, but I had definitely straightened up my shit. I had met a girl at the point, had absolutely fallen in love with her daughter, and things were decent. I was still drinking, but I was not self-destructive drinking every night. And it wasn't until me broke up that I actually had changed my life. It was probably the best thing that ever happened to me. It sounds crazy, but I was deeply, deeply in love with her, but I knew it was for the best of all parties. So I actually was like, I'm either going to stay in St. Louis in the States or I'm going to move and change my life, because if I would have stayed, I probably would have got back with her. I just knew there was something more for me. I had to choose a different path because I'd always chosen that dark path. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to move to Texas. I had a BMX national out there at this point, and nothing really happened between 21 and 25. I kind of settled down, but at this point, I'm 25 and I'm back into BMX. I pulled my head out of my ass. I got broken up with, and I finally had chose the light path. And I'm number 3 in the nation at this point for 21 to 25 in BMX in the nation. I've done it 15 years at this point, and I've never made it. This is everything.
Yeah.
I actually snapped my clavicle again, got in a car accident, but I still ended up with number 7. But that's when things really changed for me. I knew that I was more than the story that I was telling myself. And just like you were saying, we don't reach for help. And I wish that I would have had what I actually built, is that mentor be like, dude, hop in my boat. You don't need to take this flood. You know, you're hanging onto a tree. I'm your lifeboat. Jump in. I wish I would have had a mentor, because, or just had the strength to let someone lead me and let my ego quit destroying my life.
But that, again, that kind of brings me back. That's not something that we as young adults, early mid-20s men, we're not able to do that. It's great to have that mentor there, but you'll still, if you had had that mentor there, would you have pushed back even more, do you think? Do you know what I mean? We're not good at being told what to do or taking that help or asking for that help at those ages either. So but I think obviously everything that you've been to has made you see what kind of mentor you wanted. So you're going to become that mentor now with the Alpha Redefinition group.
Exactly. And it's tough. I mean, people make every excuse in the book. I mean, hell, I did it to not work on myself. I've done everything. No, if you did everything, like if I did everything, I would have been where I was sooner. And I kind of did have a mentor. When I moved to Texas, I was working with Journey shoes and I really excelled. My favorite part about that job was hiring these little part-timers who I once was, and seeing the passion and them grow and be passionate and excel in something. It wasn't the money. It wasn't anything. I love to see people excel. That's how I started, a little 17-year-old punk kid in high school wearing band tees with Justin Bieber surfer hair. That was me. And I became general manager, but I knew at this point I excelled. I had a great mentor, but I just wasn't hitting that district manager. What do I want out of my life? At this point, I was head over heels in love. You know, I thought I was going to get married. Things were really, really good for me, but I was still drinking. I had gone back to drinking. I was working the salary and I didn't feel good enough. I had put in over a decade at this. I've got manager of the year before. It's like, what is it going to take for me to get your job? Seriously. At this point, I was like, you know what? I know what I want to do. I'm just going to hang in there. Just the power of one more, right? I'm going to keep going. At this point, the girl I'm completely in love with leaves me. We get in a fight and I come home and my apartment is empty. Well, all of her stuff. And I'm like, are you kidding me? So I had been drinking, but I really didn't go out to bars. I was nothing like I was. But after that, I truly thought I was going to marry her. I was planning to marry her. But at the point in time, I think she left me because what she said, that I didn't want to get married, or we just didn't talk about it. So at this point, I had never had my heart broken like that. I truly thought she was the one. So what do? I'm drinking all day, every day. Even at work, that I was excelling at. I was terrible. I was absolutely terrible. I was in the worst place I'd ever been in my life. And a week or two after she had left me, my dog, Oakley, had passed away. This was truly my rock bottom.
Mhm.
Felt I had lost a child. This is the dog who I had brought from St. Louis to Texas. I'd given up at that point. I was working a dead end job. They didn't want to promote me. So I went in there, and the best thing that I ever did in my life. I didn't even have a backup. I had mentally lost it. And I told my DM, I'm done. I'm putting in my 2 weeks. He's like, oh, no. Whoa, you're not done. What? He was like, think about it. If you no, I'm done. And my RVP, regional vice president, flew in like, you've been with us, when they could only offer me $1 more a week. That's how long I had been with them.
Jesus.
And he was like, do you even have a backup plan? I was rock bottom. Hell no, I didn't have a backup plan. And I looked at him and I said, no, I could sell cardboard boxes out of the trash and I'll make it, because I truly did believe in myself. But at that point, I didn't care. I was done trying to prove my worth to people and like, I'm good enough. I'm good enough. None of that mattered anymore. I had lived in this, I think it was 28, 29 at the time, almost 30 years of I'm not good enough. So I'm going to show you, I'm going to become best BMX racer in the nation. I was doing all these things to distract myself and not deal with my problems.
Yeah.
And leaving the only thing that I had left in my life literally made me focus on my problems. So that's all I had. Leaving Journeys was probably one of the best things. And that's when I had this idea of Alpha Redefinition. I was like, there's got to be something more. There's no more Mr. Nice Guy. I need to become the person I need to become. And not only that, but everything I went through is for a reason. My perception's now starting to change. I'd lived 30 years of trying to ignore myself, hating myself. And for what? And it showed with the people I hung out with or drinking every day. And just, I started to get involved with things trying to fit in. I felt so uncomfortable and not who I was that I was just trying to fit in. So as I'm building Alpha Redefinition and I'm putting every dollar that I make into it, at this point, I'm working multiple jobs. I'm hustling because I had this passion and this belief. Ever since I left Journeys, I never really worked a real job. I promised that to myself. I'm not going to fail. And had I had the mentality of, oh, well, I'm going to start it easy, I went all in. I was done lying to myself. You are good enough. I still struggle with I'm not good enough, but I was like, I'm going all in. So I started doing these Ubers and the Amazon. And then once again, I'm back in it, distracting myself with all this money to build something. But I really didn't know what I was building at this point in time. I'm still drinking. I'm still coasting through with my friends. I'm living with my friend at this point in time. We kind of get into it. So I moved with my best friend of 15 years at the time, who's not really in the best situation. So at this point in time, I move in and is talking to my ex-girlfriend who left me to go get engaged and marry some guy in less than a year. This had been 2 years and I am still not over it. Yeah. And my ex was cheating on him. They're not together anymore, so I can air this dirty laundry. I had let her play games with me and with both of us. And I was like, you know what? If that's what you want, go. Went and got engaged and married. But at this point, she's married. And I'm still in love with her. I've been celibate. I had not even had sex with anyone since her, which is insanity. Okay. We're talking over a year. This is what I thought at the time. The one.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I'm doing everything in my power to avoid her, starts hanging out with her at this point. I'm like, oh my God, dude, this can't be happening, because I'm monogamous and I'm sorry, I won't do that. That is against my values she's married. It's done. It's over.
Yeah.
But at this point, I'm leaving. I'm scared to death. And then we finally cross paths. And it was the worst thing that we just go right back into it. At this point, I'm going to school. I'm having an affair with a married woman who, at this point, I should be married to me, whatever. But I'm going to school at this point. I'm really starting to build Alpha Redefinition and work with people and relationships. That's how it started. I'd got my heart broke and I'd learned my lessons, but I was so ashamed that I was sleeping with a married woman, and all my friends knew. Was ashamed. It doesn't matter if I knew her 6 or 7 years and they've been together a year and a half. How dare me? And I felt this imposter syndrome, and it got to a point of I need to stop. It's 8 to 10 months into this at this point in time. I'm like, you're dragging your feet. I can't do this. So if you want to stay with him, whatever. Ends up getting married. My ex is the freaking wedding planner. This is when stuff really hits the fan. So, as I said, the groom only had 2 people show up on his side.
Right.
And I think it was his 4th or 5th marriage at that point. I just really started to be like, man, this is not what I want for my future. I'd started butting heads with people. I was really trying to shift into the person that I was supposed to become. I didn't want to have an affair anymore. I was ashamed, but I thought I was so in love with her and I thought the feelings were mutual.
Yeah.
At 10 months at this time, she's kind of not even talking to me that much. Maybe we are done. So I bring a wedding date. It so happens to be the girl I kind of dated before my ex, but we were friends. We had not hooked up. So then shit hit the fan. The next night, my ex is being petty, brings a 3rd person in the equation. So she got me, her husband, and then that's when I really had my come to Jesus moment. I was like, Talan, what the fuck are you doing, dude? That's when I knew I was lying to myself.
Yeah.
She was not the person who I honestly thought she was for the past 5 years. Like, I truly laughed. So I had to do what I had to do. I told her husband about me and her, but I did not bring up the 3rd person. I had to forgive myself, but he had to know about us. But I didn't rat her out on the 3rd person. Okay. It wasn't to be vindictful or she was going to do that on her own.
Yeah.
He was like, don't ever talk to him again, which I was never going to talk to that girl again. I promise you. I told you, I'd never talked to her since that day. And he reached out to me 6 months after that. And he was like, hey, man. I was like, hey, what's up? Who is this? And he was like, soon to be ex-husband. And I was like, what? Oh my gosh, soon to be. It's been 6 months, man. And he was like, do you mind if I call you? And I was like, here goes. But at this point, I'd already started my practice. It was going great. Alpha Redefinition. I finally forgave myself. I'd quit drinking. Maybe a beer here and there if I'm out of the country. So I get him on the phone. This is the least I can do for this guy. Like, that's karma. You date a girl in a relationship and she was with me and it came full circle again with me. We had our conversation. He was like, yeah, now she's dating someone else. I was like, yeah, I knew about that, but I had to tell you and forgive myself. And he was like, no, I wanted to reach out and I really respect that conversation. Looking back, and I hope he truly took that to heart, and I hope he's not living how I was years ago and lying to himself. But that was probably one of the things that truly saved my life is bringing that 3rd person in there. I mean, at that point in time, I had completely fooled myself. I've been lying to myself and I'm like, oh my God.
But I guess you kind of would though, wouldn't you? Because as you said, this was the one, wasn't she? She was the one for you, man. And then all of a sudden it ends and you're trying to get over it. And, by weird circumstances, your best mate starts talking to her again. She comes back in. I mean, look, I've never been in that situation, so I don't really know. But I guess there's going to be something familiar there between the two of you anyway. Do you know what I mean? I don't know what kind of pillow talk or conversations were happening between you guys, but she's obviously telling you some stuff she's not happy over here. You're obviously thinking, right, Jesus, we could get back together. And then, as you say, in walks the third wheel at the wedding. You're like, nah, fuck it, I'm done. Good luck. Because you've been
I
playing the
started
brave us now
laughing.
at this stage. Yeah.
Yeah, I had known the third wheel, and I'm not trying to punk anyone, but I was at such a completely different place. I think the third wheel just got out of rehab. And don't get me wrong, I was like drinking every day. But once that happened, I was like, this isn't even about value at this point. I was just like, man. So yeah, and it's ironic. That third wheel was the greatest thing that ever happened to me. I knew it wasn't about value at this point, and that's when I really understood how much of my own worst enemy I was. Not only with the whole relationship, but my friend who got married, I've known her for over 15 years, even a previous state. I think real friends don't let you put yourself in situations and will challenge things that are unhealthy for you and go to bat. I live with them, and threats of divorce and child chairs being, I mean, it was chaotic. I had never even been in that stuff in childhood. So I was really ashamed of myself. What kind of best friend was I? Turning my head and letting someone, no matter what, I could say what I want to say. It doesn't mean that they're going to change, but I have to stay true to my values. I knew that, yes, it hurt like hell to walk away from not the girl who I thought I was in love with at the time, because that was a 180, but to break a friendship like that, and for my own mental health and well being and to become the person that I needed to be, it was a no. I wish we could still be close, but my passion and my career and who I am will always come first. My men will always come first. Even if I get in a relationship, that's something they have to know, is that this is my purpose and this is what I'm sent here to do. That my career will always come first to help these men in the community. And don't get me wrong, I'm not going to have children and be like, get out of here. I believe in what I do so much, and I had put so much blood, sweat, tears, went through the trauma, that this is exactly where I needed to be and why everything happened.
Yeah.
It's bittersweet, man. This mental health ride, you never think it's going to work out until you're like, wow, I made it, man.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm sober. I'm happy. I get to help people. And for the first time in my life, I'm not in love with someone, and I hang around people who push me to grow, and I do the same for others. I never thought life would be as great as it is. I get to travel the world. I mean, and it's all because I found my passion and gave my traumas healthy meaning.
Yeah. Yeah. I've kind of said it before with the other guys that have been on the show, and this is what I love about doing these podcasts and talking to lads like you, is that you kind of said it earlier, it's the ones that have been through it are always the ones that are going to be there to help other guys get through it. Until you've experienced it and gone through it, you don't understand until you're on the other side of it. And trying to give back, as you say, in your words, give back to your community, to the guys that are all part of Alpha Redefinition. So that's awesome, man. It must be great to kind of wait, as you say, you wake up every morning, look what you've accomplished in looking at the guys on it. Like I said, I'm on the Facebook group and I see all the guys posting different stuff in the conversations. I'm not interactive on it now, but it is awesome. There is a sense of community there. You can feel it even on the Facebook group, which is pretty cool.
Yeah. The good thing about it is when I work every day, I realize how my problems aren't real problems. I have brothers come to me like, man, this is going to be crazy. I'm like, lay it on me, because nothing is crazy. And it really gives you a sense of belonging, that we're all here trying to make it, and to see people add value and give themselves purpose and meaning and give back to others when they never thought was possible. Everyone's story means something. Everyone's here for a reason.
Yeah. And that's the thing. I guess with each guy that comes in, as you say, look, you've got different aspects of it, right? There's the mental health side, the coaching side, the fitness side, and people come in and get almost an a la carte. They'll take what they kind of want off the menu but they'll all take something deeper than that from it. Do you know what I mean? Even being part of the community, whether they're not getting involved in the mental health stuff or whatever, they'll see it. There's that communal growth, I guess, between all the guys that are there, which is fantastic.
Yeah, it's until that day comes and you want to work on that relationship, who knows what tomorrow is going to bring. That's kind of the beauty of it. Yeah, you pay a small membership fee, but you always know that you can lean back on a crew and get not judged. Oh, my wife left me, or my teenage son's going crazy. Like, what do I do? It's nice to have a community of men who are humble and open and willing to learn in that space that they've never felt comfortable to put themselves in.
Yeah. And that's the thing with groups like yours, right? And I've seen a lot of different groups on Facebook, obviously, with all the research and everything else that I'm doing for these shows and the conversations I'm having with different lads about it. There are a lot more of, not like your group, but of men group, say, on Facebook.
Yeah.
It's lads who have been through it. There's guys who are going through separation. So they talk to guys, lads, this is the problem I'm having. And you see all the comments jumping in, or not, right, that's it, I'm in court tomorrow for the divorce, or we're in custody battles, or can't stop drinking. What the fuck do I do? And it's amazing the amount of people who jump on it and try and... The great thing I find about it, right, is that it's not about trying to pick them up. There's a few times I've seen comments go up or posts go up on Facebook, right? This is what I love about, I guess, the lad side of... I don't know what women's Facebook groups are like because I'm not in them, but from a lad's perspective, there was one he puts up and he's like, all right, that's it. I'm living in the basement the last 2 months. The wife hates me guts. Divorce is on the way. Wish me luck. Why does she treat me like this? Or something like that, right?
Yeah.
Now, at first glance, you're kind of looking at it going, well, hang on a minute, mate. What the fuck did you do? That's a fairly stupid post to put up. You're obviously living in the basement on the brink of divorce because you've done something.
Yeah.
And a lot of the times, lads call bullshit on the other guy's posts or comments, like, hang on a minute, don't come at me with 20% of the story and expect some sort of us to be pity or to feel sorry.
Accountability.
Yeah, what the hell have you done, buddy? And then we'll talk.
Yeah.
And that's a great thing as well, because all the comments start to jump on that then. So exactly, what have you done? Okay, you may not deserve to be living in the basement, but you've obviously pissed her off in some way.
Yeah.
And I guess from the groups that I see on Facebook, that's a brilliant thing to say, is lads coming out on the one side, look, I'll help you, but I'm going to call bullshit on your crap first of all. And then we'll have a real conversation about it. And that's what I love. I love seeing.
Yeah. And Alpha Redefinition, we have a thing called 7-man wolf pack. So one of them, obviously the odd number will be the group leader, but that's kind of what we do. You have to take accountability. So many men wait until life slaps them in the face rather than making the small changes. If you've had this fight 3 times, have you even thought about the lesson it's taught you? Or why do you keep doing the same thing over and over again? Like, duh.
There's a common denominator here, buddy. Yeah.
So we built something. This isn't about men who are talking about it. We're actually doing the work in here. So say your problem. We'll give you a couple tools and resources, and we're going to hold you accountable to where you want to go, whatever that looks like for you to become a better man.
No, that's incredible. So what's next? So I've looked, the website is alpharedefinition.com. I am going to put a link to it when I post this podcast, and it'll be embedded in the Spotify side of it, and Anchor and Google and Amazon podcasts and stuff as well. So, but it's alpharedefinition.com. So what's next? Where do you see this growing? Is the guys that are in at the moment, I know you do meetings and stuff, I'm assuming they're over Zoom or kind of video calls that you do?
So yeah, we do video calls and they are weekly. They're actually within our website and platform. Hopefully we'll get an app in the Google Play and Apple Store here in a bit. You can do challenges. We have our Alpha Warrior. It's a 30-day pretty much life audit where you want to go analyze everything. They can check out our website, if they want to check out the Brotherhood, we also have our Facebook group, which is the Men's Accountability and Self-Improvement by Alpha Redefinition on Facebook. And we have a podcast for revamping. And we also got a YouTube channel that we're revamping. So if you only see one video on it and 500 subscribers, we're adding them, all right? We're kind of revamping.
You're working.
But yeah, so come check us out, and we'd love to have you. And even if it's get some free value in the Facebook group or test it out, but reach out to me. I'm there. I'm always working all the time. This is my baby, my passion. And my men, the brothers, we all lean on each other. So it's nice.
That's awesome. That's awesome. All right. Well, listen, as I said, look, I'll put there'll be links in the posts on the wherever you get your podcasts. You'll see a link to the alpharedefinition.com website. Talan, it's been an absolute pleasure talking to you tonight. I'm delighted we finally made it to the end of the show. Since the last time we did it, you were in the middle of redoing your office and stuff wasn't working on your end. And then it was a couple of weeks before that we tried to do it. My computer crashed and died halfway through it. So the whole time I'm sitting here going, please don't crash, please don't crash. But we finally got to the end of it, and I'm delighted with that. It's been an absolute pleasure talking to you this evening, and thank you for coming on and not only obviously telling the guys in the world about Alpha Redefinition. It's an honor to promote it and to get the word out there for you, because I think you guys are doing some amazing things. But also thank you for showing vulnerability tonight as well. I say to all of the guys sort of before we hit the record button, the whole point of this is to show guys that, look, it's okay sometimes to not be okay. Your mental health is going to suffer at certain points in your life, and it's going to be different for everybody. We all tend to go back to that one thing or those couple of symptoms where we drink, we isolate, we bury our heads in it. And as men, that's something we all do collectively. It's the same. Every conversation I have with these guys, we all do the same thing. When it gets to that point, drugs, drink, isolation, we all tend to do it. But I think we're having more and more of these conversations. Hopefully it gets out there and into the guys' heads that, you know what, put your hand up and ask for help, because there's so many lads out there who've been through it who want to help.
Exactly. I mean, call me the Titanic. I'm on them lifeboats waiting for brothers ready to jump in. So absolutely. Thanks for having me. And it's been a blast.
Yeah. Awesome. Listen, thank you very much. We'll talk soon.
All right.
Cheers, brother.